you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm going to be showing you the Stamina Templar. I know a lot of you have been asking for this for quite some time, and of course I had a backlog of builds to keep up to date with. But this is a very new build as far as the channel is concerned. There hasn't been one before. And yeah, basically here it is. This is made for all players, as are most of the builds on the channel, apart from one or two very specific ones. But this is easy to acquire in terms of gear. It's very easy to use in terms of rotation. It's very, very simple, it's very comfortable, and it's very sustainable as well, and it performs in all content. Now, of course, if you want to do Maelstrom and stuff like that, there are some other builds out there that can work, but this will also work for that. But as far as dungeons, trials, even solo stuff, if you want to, this is very, very strong across the board. Now, most stamina DPSs, of course, focus on lots of single target damage, as this does. But also just remember that the Templar specifically has a decent amount of AoE as well, especially with its main spammable being an area of effect ability. Of course, applying more damage to the target in front, but I'll get to that when I get to the skills. So, let's get to the juicy stuff. First of all, we will pop a potion, check out the stats. So we're sitting on 19,000 health, 39,000 stamina, 1k stam recovery, 68.6% crit and 4k weapon damage. Now that weapon damage goes up a little bit more because I'm using a weapon damage glyph. So we're talking 4-4 almost, alongside any additional buffs that you get from your group or trial or whatever you're in. 64 points into stamina, stage 4 vampire, and we're using the thief Mundus stone. We're using max health and max stamina food. That's pretty much it for that. I'll show you the food. Just so you know, this stuff here, there are variations of this, but basically the 150 to 160 CP food, which gives you max health and max stamina. Potion wise, of course I'm using the one that gives you major brutality, major savagery, and major endurance. So we have recovery, very high recovery, bonus there that we keep for the whole duration of the potion, which is passive based, but I'll get to that. You return stamina, you have weapon crit for 47 seconds as well, and extra damage. Now this particular potion is Blessed Thistle, Dragon Thorn, and Wormwood, if I remember correctly, along with whichever water you need for your level, which would be Larkin's Tears. Of course, I'm going to go over the skills in detail as I usually do. Some of the things I will scan over rather quickly because you can look at those in your own time, but the overall setup is made the way it is for a good reason, and I will go over as much as I can in the description of this. So, first of all, this skill here is purposely overall for the extra weapon damage from the Fighters Guild passives, which I will get to. However, if you want to use it, you can. This sustains very, very well. You will have time to put this in your rotation occasionally in certain stacking situations where maybe the tank isn't using this, or a healer isn't using this, or whatever, someone else isn't using it, and people can take less damage while inside of this. You are up front doing the damage all the time in the boss's face, so anyone else with you will take less damage. Again, you don't necessarily have to use this, but if you do, it will support you in your group. However, that can be switched out for another skill. I mean, while you're standing inside of it, of course, you get 10% recovery, and everybody inside of this gets minor protection, reducing their incoming damage by 8%. So this gives you weapon damage from the Fighters Guild passives, and it's a protection buff for your group. Up to you if you want to slot it or not. Personally, I just use it for the damage, but if you're not comfortable with it, you can slot this instead, which is Deadly Cloak in the dual wield skill line, and it will reduce all incoming area of effect damage to you, only you, by 25%. You will lose a weapon damage bonus, but you will also do a little bit of damage and receive less damage from area of effect. So this is a flex slot. It's up to you. More damage and a bit of protection for your group, or serious AoE protection for you. Up to you. Rearm and Trap. This is for two reasons, of course. One is for the bonus it gives you to minor force, increasing all of the crit damage you do by 10%. As well, of course, it does damage. But the other bonus, of course, is again weapon damage from the Fighters Guild skill line, which, as I've already explained on this skill, I will get to. Now, how this works, Rearm and Trap, this is, by the way, not just Beast Trap. Put it down on the ground. Anyone that gets stuck in that, it will pop and hold them on the spot and do a decent amount of physical damage. Then after 6 seconds it will rearm itself and go on for another 6 seconds. So it lasts for 12. And that will give you 10% increased crit damage the whole time. So if you keep this in your rotation all the time, you'll always get that extra damage, you'll always get that dot running. It's very, very nice. I know people are confused about the stuns and all the rest of it. It does work on bosses. No, it doesn't stun them, but yes, it does still apply the damage, and yes, it does still apply the bonus to your crit damage. Expert Hunter, you can morph this into Evil Hunter or Camo Hunter if you prefer to use it in PvP or whatever, but you don't actually have to. This again is here for the weapon damage that you get from the Fighters Guild passives, and of course if you're not using potions, this gives you a crit bonus as well. We do get this from one of our other skills, so we're kind of on top of Major Savagery the whole time. We've got it on our potions, we've got it on this skill, we've got it on our next ability, which is the main spammable. We kind of don't necessarily need it for the crit, but the extra weapon damage is nice. Again, up to you if you want to use it or not. Bite and jabs, this is essential. This is our main spammable. It's inside the rotation quite nicely along with our heavies to sustain. Now what it does is it hits the front enemy, the one closest to you, for 140% more damage than the rest of them. But this will hit every enemy in front of you as long as it's close by with this. Now I will show this on the skeleton in a bit, but you'll see where I'm going now. Actually, I'll try and find some ads with some mobs, some just general trash mobs. This will do. Get you. You'll notice that it hits them both. Please trap. He's stuck. You'll notice it hits them both, but it hits the closest one. Storm Fist, we'll get to that. But it hits the front one for more damage. Now this does apply a snare, which is not important, and it does apply the crit bonus, which again isn't important because it's on our potions and it is on this. So we do have an uptime on this Major Savagery buff pretty much covered. But if you weren't using potions and you weren't using this, if you were using a different setup maybe, then this would apply that Major Savagery buff for 8 seconds every time you fire this ability off. Above all, this is a very, very powerful short duration ability that does close ranged area of effect damage and stronger to a single target. Blood Craze. This is a very decent bleed which goes through resist, so you don't have to worry about penetration with it, which heals you every 2 seconds. So it does damage every 2 seconds and it heals you every 2 seconds. Up to 9 seconds apparently, which is strange because we're missing a tick somewhere. But keep this on your bar, you need this, it's a dual wield ability. It does get stronger at lower health on the targets based on certain passives, which I'll go over. But this alongside this is your main source of damage until you get to the back bar. Flawless Dawnbreaker, I don't actually use this. I only slot it for the 5% increase to weapon damage, so more damage overall. And for the Fighters Guild passives, again, as you can see, this is very Fighters Guild heavy. Main spammable, single dot, and lots of Fighters Guild stuff. Back bar. Vigor, don't leave home without it. Very simple. Anyone caught in that area of effect is healed once a second for 5 seconds. Now, of course, the higher your weapon damage and stamina, the stronger this is. But we've got a high amount of both of those. This is very, very handy, not just for you, but for close by allies. Poison Injection, a very, very powerful single target dot, which does poison damage. And of course, the lower the target's health, the more damage it does. Enemies under 50% will take more damage. The lower it is, the more aggressive it gets, up to an increased amount of 260% more damage. So it's very, very powerful. Keep this on a target at all times, and if they go low health, they will die. Power of the Light. This is very, very strong indeed. This basically puts a beam on the target's head, doing a certain amount of physical damage first of all. I mean, this is based on your skills and buffs at the time. It says 4k at the moment, but that does actually change. But it's a decent amount. And then after 6 seconds, it will release 20% of all the damage you've done so far while this has been active, up to a maximum of 23.4k. So if you go over that, it won't accumulate any more damage. It will stop there. After 6 seconds, boom, it explodes. There's your damage. Very, very nice. Also, targets affected by it will be affected with minor fracture and minor breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance, which benefits you and your group. Repentance, this is a no-brainer. What slotted you gain minor fortitude, minor endurance, and minor intellect, increasing all 3 recovery types, health, stamina, and magicka by 10%. So on your back bar, you've got more recovery. But if you press this, just does that. It's very simple. Doesn't cost a thing. It's free. Any dead enemy close by will restore health to you and your allies, and will restore stamina to you per dead enemy. This is pretty much broken in my opinion, but it's very, very strong. We'll give you a quick example over here. This one, what if we can pull 3 of them without... Don't ignore that proc, we're not looking into that yet. We'll pull them all together. Yes, we can. Let's get them all dead. And watch very carefully. This effect fills my stamina and fills my health. The more enemies, the stronger it gets. Very, very powerful, and is ridiculous for your sustain, especially in a situation where there's many, many targets. So you can use it as a heal, and you can use it as a stamina restore. Stamina for you, health for you and your group. Endless Hail, you just saw that fire off on the ground. Everything in here will take damage over 10 seconds. Now the damage is actually really, really strong. 3.5k a second, or half a second, sorry, for 10 seconds. So 20 ticks of that for everything inside that AoE. Now the Maelstrom weapon that I'm using at the moment, as you can see, that does make it a lot stronger, but we'll go over that when we get to the gear. This is very important to the build. This particular ultimate, it is based around a few passives as well that you do need to have, but above all, this basically hits targets in front of you for a decent amount of damage. In fact, the most I've seen is between 32 and 35k, I think, on the first hit, and then it does damage every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So short duration, but it's pretty strong. Enemies in front of you, like directly in front of you, take 66% more initial damage, so the target closest to you, same as bite and jabs. But above all, this is very, very cheap as well. 72 ultimate, it's barely anything. You can keep this up every second rotation as long as it's clean. But we'll get to this in the passive, because this is very, very important indeed. Do not use the Dawnbreaker. It's no point. It's more expensive. It does a little less damage, and it doesn't apply the bonuses to your class. But this does. Now, I'm going to get to the passives, and this will all start making more sense. First, we'll start at the Fighters Guild, because I did explain this is Fighters Guild heavy, and for good reason. We don't need to put too many skills on our bar, because honestly, we can have a very good rotation without it. 2 abilities and a beast trap is enough. Now, Intimidating Presence, make sure you get this. Your Fighters Guild abilities are cheaper, meaning this is cheaper. You will be using this every rotation. And if you choose to use this, this is cheaper. Now, you can morph this to 2 different versions of this if you choose to, but that is up to you. Some people don't like to use this. I kind of do. But this you need. Increases your weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. As you can see, we have 12% increased weapon damage. The reason is 3%, 3%, 3%, and a further 3% on top of the 5 that this gets at the bottom. This counts as a Fighters Guild ability no matter what. So instead of 5% there, it's actually 8. So 3, 3, 3, 3, and a further 5. So we actually have 17% increase of weapon damage by having these 4 abilities on here overall. Now, what you do need to get also is this. You generate 9 ultimate when you kill an undead, Daedra, or werewolf. Your ulti is so cheap. If you're killing an undead, you're going to be able to spam it. It's borderline broken. Also, your Fighters Guild abilities deal additional 20% extra damage to undead, Daedra, and werewolves. Now, Undaunted, essential. We're going in a bit of a reverse order here. Take this as soon as possible. Any synergy you take will give you 4% of your max resources back. Health, stamina, and magicka. Make sure you take those synergies. Increase your max health, your stamina, and your magicka by 2% per armor type. We're wearing 3 types. We're wearing 1 piece of heavy, 1 piece of light, so there's 2 types, and 5 pieces of medium. So we're wearing 3 different types of armor, giving us 6% resources across the board. Really, really powerful. Get that as soon as you possibly can. We are an Imperial, which means we get 12% max health, which is huge. We get 10% max stamina, which is the largest stamina bonus in the game, alongside the Red Guard, which is exactly the same, except they don't get the health. And then instead of stamina return like the Red Guard gets, our melee attacks have a 10% chance to restore 6% of our max health. So, the more health you have, the more efficient this actual passive is, and of course we have 12% increased above every other stamina class. So this is very, very strong combined. Alchemy, this is essential. There is an alchemy guide on my channel. I'll link it in the description, showing you how to get medicinal use 3 as soon as possible. You're getting attacked, of course. And, oh, don't want to log out, do we? Let's try again. This will increase the time of your potions. And if you noted at the beginning, I showed you a potion with 47 seconds uptime on it, where the cooldown is 45 seconds. So that means you have 100% uptime on your potions if you use them as soon as they run out. That's because of this passive. If you didn't have that, they'd only last 36 seconds, and all those buffs would disappear for 10 seconds at a time per potion. So you need this. Now, you can go through these in your own time if you want. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they increase your crit chance, they improve your recovery, they reduce the cost of your stamina abilities, they also increase your ability to sneak, and they increase your weapon damage and dodge roll reduction to cost as well. These are all very, very important. Get every single one of them. We're using 5 pieces, we want maximum bonuses. Heavy armor, there's only one bonus here you need, Juggernaut. You can get these if you want for resists, small amount resists, and for return when you take damage. However, honestly, they're not that important. If you want to optimize and you've got some spare skill points, go for it. But if not, this is what you really need. 2 points into here means for having a heavy piece of armor worn, which we are, you get a further 2% extra health. That also stacks on top of our Imperial passive, which gives us max health, on top of our Undaunted passives that give us max health, making us quite a tanky stamina build. Vampire, I'm always a stage 4 vampire on all of my classes, or at least I am at the moment. This recovery is essential. Sustain is absolutely nuts with this particular build, so why not have the extra recovery? And of course, Undeath. The more damage you take, the less damage you take when you hit that percentage of health. Basically what this means is under 50% health, so you're taking quite a bit of damage now, the incoming damage starts to dip and you take less of it. Up to 33% less damage, the lower your health is. This is very, very strong, and this makes you very, very tanky and less of a liability in situations where you're going to be taking damage consistently. This helps the healers out as well because you're not so squashy. Only thing you do have to watch out on a vampire is that you take 25% more fire damage. Now I know people think that, oh, I'm a vampire, I'm going to die to fire all the time. Probably. The problem is though, most people stand there and take the fire damage. The trick to fire damage, most of it, not all of it, is it's usually a line across the floor which you can move out of. It's an AoE on the ground in a circle, which you can move out of, or it's a projectile aimed straight at you, which you can either block or dodge. If you don't want to die to fire, don't stand in it. Very simple. Now, above all, of course, this Undeath ability will definitely serve you much, much more than not having it at all and just taking less fire damage, because this is for all damage. Now, what do we got here? Bow, get all these passives, every single one of them. This one I haven't finished, of course, because my bow is on the back bar and I keep handing in quests with the wrong bar. But if you dodge roll, you run faster. For 5 seconds if you have it maxed. 2.5 if you don't. Everything else increases damage, reduces cost, and of course, if you do light attacks in your rotation as well, you will increase the damage of your bow abilities for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times, 5% at a time. So, in the rotation that we have, there's a volley, there's a light attack, there's a poison injection, there's another light attack, and I'll go over the rotation in a moment, but you can see where I'm going with it. You can boost the damage of the abilities that are already running for a short period of time. So I would get those, but above all, get all the passives. You need these alongside your medium armor, your class ones, and of course your dual wield, which I'm now getting to. These, again, lower health targets take more damage. Remember that, it's important. That applies also not just to your skills, but to your light and heavies as well. So keep up your rotations when targets are low. You will kill them very, very fast. Above all, get all of these passives. The reason we're using a dagger and an axe, by the way, is because we have an 8% chance to bleed, which goes through resists for 6 seconds with the axe, and we have an increased crit chance with the dagger. So one of each is very, very powerful. I know people like to use lots of daggers and everything, but you do not want to lose out on that bleed. It's very, very strong and procs a lot more than you think. These, of course, you want every single passive in this tree. This is incredibly important. It increases your critical damage done and your damage against blocking targets by 10%, while you have an Adric Spear ability slotted. So for having this slotted, our crit damage is increased by 10%. By using a Beast Trap, our crit damage is increased by 10%. We do a lot of damage when we crit, so we want to crit, hence the high crit on the character. If you don't have it, you're wasting a very, very valuable passive. Now, this is also important, increases the amount of damage you can block from melee attacks by 15% for having an ability slotted again. So if you're taking melee damage and you do block, just like the DK, you get a bit of a bonus to it. Now, this one here, when you deal damage with an Adric Spear ability, you have a 25% chance, which is quite high, to deal an additional 5k physical damage or magic damage, depending on which one's higher. For us, it's physical. Whichever is the highest, this can happen every 0.5 seconds. Kill this. Now, what that means is, every time I do this, which lasts a second, or 1.1 seconds, so basically 1 second, I guess, that passive could proc 2 times. So some free damage twice every time you cast that alongside the skill. And the back bar ability, the ultimate, this one, that lasts for 6 seconds, pulsing every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds you could make that fire again. So while this is active and while you're stabbing, combined, you can get a hell of a lot of free damage by getting this passive. You do need it. Also increases your weapon damage again by 6% and your spell resistance by 2.6. So we have 6% increased weapon damage here. We have 17% with all the Fighters Guild abilities, and we have 12% in our medium armor passives. I think you can see this has a lot of weapon damage, decent amount of crit, and of course our crit damage is boosted as well. Really important passives, you must get them. Here, not all these are important because we're not using a lot of the abilities, but I get them all anyway just to make sure I fill out the passives. But the ones that are important, Dawn's Wrath ability generates 3 ultimate once every 6 seconds. Now I'm using this ability here, Power of the Light. This is in this skill line. I will be using it every rotation, so every time I do use it I will be getting 3 ultimate. That's essential to our rotation as well, because we want to push that tiny bit of ultimate just to make sure that we can use our main damage ultimate every second rotation. In here, casting Dawn's Wrath ability also grants minor sorcery to you and your group for 20 seconds, increasing their spell damage by 5%. It's not essential to you, but it is to your group. You can keep that buff up all the time. And again, reduces the magicka, stamina, and ultimate cost for your abilities. This is key to keeping your rotation clean. If you do not have this passive, you won't be able to fire this ultimate every 2 rotations. You'll have to fire it every 3, and your damage will suffer. But as soon as you can get it, get it. Restoring Light. We're not using many heals here, but I do have the passive just in case I switch abilities out. But there is one that is very important, which is increases your resurrection speed by 20%. You will res people. Resurrected allies return with 100% more health, so that's very, very useful, of course, and gives you 50% chance to fill an empty soul gem after you successfully res someone. So if someone dies, I know everyone can res everyone, but you really need to be the one that does that because it's faster and they come back with more health. What else have we got? I think that's it because we did it in reverse order. It is. Good stuff. Now we're going to get to the gear. Don't worry about how I activate it by accident sometimes. Skills done. Inventory. Like I said, this is very group friendly. Very solo friendly as well, but okay, we have a Sunderflame Axe in Precise. We have a Sunderflame Dagger in Sharpen. Now you can do this in any order. They don't have to be the same trait. One could be Sharpen, one could be Precise, or vice versa. But the 2 traits are quite specific to your front bar. Poison Glyph on one, Weapon and Spell Damage Glyph on the other. Maelstrom Weapon on the back, Sharpened if you can get it. If not, you can use any trait you want as long as you don't stay on the back bar too long. I'm using also, well, I'm using 5-piece Sunderflame, of course. So the rest I think you'll find are in the jewelry, which they are. Weapon damage on all of them. What this set does is it gives you max stamina, weapon damage, weapon crit, and if you heavy attack, a full one, you do a small amount of flame damage and you reduce the physical resistance of the target by 3360 for 8 seconds. So you and all other stamina users now do more damage to that target. And this has 0 cooldown. So every heavy attack that will restart that debuff. Very, very strong. And will support groups in dungeons, in trials, and yourself, of course, if you're just going out solo and stuff. This is very, very strong. And it's a free ability. You don't even have to do anything other than heavy attack. There's no other condition. There's no percentage chance to fire it or anything like that. It's guaranteed with a heavy attack. The other set, of course, is Hundin's Rage. This is a crafted set. I'm using 5 pieces. I'm actually using a medium belt. Actually, I need to gold that. But I'm using a heavy chest for the Undaunted passive. But I'm using Infused on all the big pieces and Divines on all the small. Stamina on everything. This gives you crit, stamina, crit again, and increased weapon damage. Now, if you have everything gold, this will go to 300. Sorry, 299 in fact. But I need to gold the belt out. The shoulder and the helmet, I've done so many tests with sets and weapon combinations and monster set combinations and all that kind of stuff. This is very slightly stronger than every other combination that I've done so far, and beneficial to sustain, of course, as well. But maybe with the next patch that might be slightly different. But so far, this is topping out just. I wanted Infused on this one really, but I didn't get that. I have Divines instead. But light shoulder, medium mask. You can do this in any order you want. As long as you have 1 heavy on your body, 1 light on your body, and 5 medium, you are absolutely fine. But what this does is this gives you recovery first of all for your sustain, which is nuts. And when you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to make this basically proc. Big hand comes out the ground, does shock damage once a second for 3 seconds, and all enemies within 4 meters get a final physical damage burst underneath them, and it can proc every 8 seconds. Now, you did see this proc earlier, but you'll probably get it to go again. Nope, maybe not. You'll see it on the skeleton in a moment anyway. This is very, very important. This is why our recovery is so high. If you want to use flat sets and you don't have a lot of luck in Tempest Island because it's quite difficult, or perhaps you haven't got the shoulders, do not worry. There are many combinations of stamina and weapon damage sets that you can combine. You could use perhaps 1 Bloodspawn and 1 either Celestrix or Selines or something like that to give you max stamina and recovery, or you could use Veladref and Akina, or Akina and a Celestric, anything like that. If you have a weapon damage one and a recovery one, or a stamina one in any combination, just 2 separate pieces, this will work absolutely fine. The DPS increase with this particular monster set is only around 900, so it's a fraction of a light attack. It's not even a full light attack, so the damage is close, so it's up to you. But if you want to optimize, I'd recommend this set. That's up to you. Now, I'm going to go into the CPs, which are very, very specific and took a long time to mess with, but here we go. The red ones aren't too bad. You can mess with these yourself if you find that they work better for you. But the blue ones are very specific. This reduces the damage taken from direct attacks, so magic attacks, bow attacks, anything that's actually hitting you directly, not stuff on the floor, things that hit your person basically. It's not massive, but it does help. This here, 75 in Hardy, 75 in Elemental Defender, 14% on each. Don't go any higher than this, because if you do, you're going to need a whole 25 points to get 1%. Any decimals between these 2 percentages, 14 and 15, will not give you any bonuses at all, so don't waste your points. 75 at most. 48 into Thick Skin, making sure that your damage over time, incoming damage, is reduced also by a further 18%. It's not reduced by 18 and a quarter, it's reduced by 18. The only extra bonus is the next one, which is 19, and you need some more points for that. This does work alongside these, by the way. So if you get hit by poison damage and it's a dot, both of these help reduce the incoming damage. 11 into Quick Recovery, not just for the healing received bonus, because you will need that, but for this. This reduces the damage you take while you're resurrecting someone. Remember, we res really, really fast. So this helps. We can actually take more damage while we're busy picking someone up off the ground. 28 into Warlord to reduce the cost to break free. You will get stunned, you're going to need it. 75 into Tenacity. Again, don't go any more points into this, because if you do, you're going to waste them. You need 25 points to get 15%. Waste of time. Use them somewhere else. 28 points into here. We would only have 3 points in here instead if we went for 1 extra percent. We don't need it. Again, also here, Stamina Recovery, 14%. Absolutely fine. You don't need to put any more points into this, and if you do, you're going to waste them. And with the points we have spare, 40 into Dodge Roll. We do Dodge Roll with Stamina. Of course, we're going to Dodge Roll. It's cheaper now. And the last 2 points we've got, as soon as we hit all the jump points, we can put into block cost reduction. Give us a 1% to block cost reduction as well. Very, very balanced setup. Now, don't need anything in there. 16 in Master at Arms to increase our 16 in Master at Arms to give our direct damage, ones that hit the target directly, an increased amount of damage. 56 into Thaumaturge, because pretty much everything we do is a dot. 64 into Mighty, because everything we do is either poison or physical. 33 into Piercing. This is 2.9k physical penetration. Now, you'll see on the screen at the moment that I'm giving you a quick calculation about how penetration is applied versus the target if you have other stuff in place. Mainly group buffs, trial buffs, that kind of stuff. But even for yourself, this is absolutely fine. Precise Strikes, 19 points into critical damage. Remember, we do a lot of critical damage as this type of class. We have the 10% from the Beast Trap, we have 10% in our passives. This also stacks on top of that. So our crit damage is very, very good. Now, I'm going to show you how the rotation works. I'm going to explain it briefly, and then I'm going to show you a quick clip of a test with Fracture applied, so you can see what this does single target, and you can kind of figure for yourself what this does inside a trial situation with all the buffs and debuffs applied as well. It's very, very powerful. Single target is decent. It is on par with what people would consider to be end game, as well as beginner stuff as well. And of course, its area of effect on top of that, whereas most stamina classes don't have a lot of area of effect. Stam Stalks aren't too bad. Stam DK is pretty much single target. Stam Nightblade is pretty much single target again. This particular class, very, very good AoE. Okay, now the important things to remember. First of all, you need to make sure your heavy attacks are in your rotation. Secondly, you need to make sure that your dots are applied while you're on your back bar. Thirdly, this, we'll use that target skeleton over there. This needs to be timed. You'll notice that my ultimate doesn't cost much at all. So let's build it up quickly. It's 72. 72 is how much that costs. Now, inside your rotation, you need to make sure you keep your light or heavies up, because you get 3 ultimate a second for 8 seconds if you light or heavy, and that will just refresh every time you do one. But this, once every 6 seconds, gives you 3 ultimate if you are in combat. So as you approach the back bar on your second rotation, you won't quite have enough of the ultimate to be fired, but your light attack and then this will be just enough to make it active. Then you can apply it and carry on. Now I'm going to show you how this works. First of all, make sure your Beast Trap is down. You start on the back bar. Volley, light attack, poison injection, light attack, power of the light, and then you'll swap. I'll do that on the skeleton quickly. Start off with the Beast Trap always. Volley, light attack, poison injection, light attack again, power of the light, swap bars really quick. Then heavy attack, bite and jabs. Heavy attack, bite and jabs. Heavy attack, blood craze, light, Beast Trap, swap. You're back to the beginning again. You do the front bar one again. Heavy attack first, a little slowly. Then bite and jabs. Heavy attack again. Then bite and jabs again. So there's 2 heavies. Now your third heavy, rend and slashes, or blood craze as it were. Light, Beast Trap, switch bars. So there you've got the back bar and the front bar. I'm going to show you how this works quickly, and then I'm going to show you, if you look very carefully at the ultimate on the bottom right hand side of the screen, you'll notice that the ultimate, if you time it correctly, and pace your DPS, don't do it too fast because you can break it. Pace it. You will have your ultimate ready every rotation, every second rotation, sorry. So, wait until he's reset. Go again, here we go. Once you've done your power of the light, ultimate, switch. Keep it on the ulti game. It's going up nice and steady. Light, Beast Trap, swap, volley, light, poison injection, light, power of the light, swap. I'm halfway through my ulti. Go, light, poison, light, power of the light, ulti. Now if you keep that up, every second rotation, you will be able to fire off. So here's rotation 1. Rotation 2. Fire, poison injection, power of the light, ulti's ready, go. Easy. Very, very simple rotation. Now, it takes a little bit of practice to get the light attacks in on the back bar and all that kind of stuff. But your front bar is literally 1 heavy, stabs. 2 heavy, stabs. 3 heavy, slashes. Light, beast trap, swap. Back bar, again, volley, light. Poison injection, light. Power of the light, swap. Unless it's the ultimate, in which case it's power of the light, light attack, ultimate, swap. That's it. That's all you have to do. Now, as you noticed, I mean, I'll do it from here. I do not run out of stamina. It's borderline impossible. So we'll go. Didn't fire a poison injection in for some reason. Watch my stamina. My sustain is absolutely awesome. Even going into a heavy rotation. Which means you've got lots and lots to block with. You've got lots and lots to dodge roll with if you need it. And also, just in case you need to, Circle of Protection can be used as much as you like. You're not going to run out. This buffs our recovery anyway and protects us and our group. So that is why that is there. Now, if you're in a situation where you are taking too much area of effect damage and you want to be a little on the selfish side, although it does help, you can drop your 3% weapon damage and replace this with this. This is where the rotations changes ever so slightly. What you would do with this one is instead of 3 heavies, 1 here with the stabs, 2 with the stabs, 3 with a rend in, you will do it slightly different. You still put the light attack and beast trap on the end. You still do a heavy with the rend in, but at the end, instead of light beast trap swap, you do light deadly cloak, light beast trap swap. So you kind of squeeze it in there, and that, believe it or not, will do exactly the same damage as your full rotation, but it will at the same time also give you the 25% extra reduction to incoming damage. So that choice is yours. Personally, I actually preference the Circle of Protection because it's very group friendly and a tank doesn't have to waste loads of stamina slotting it. And it, of course, does work towards your overall DPS. But you'll notice also with this heavy, not that, that wasn't supposed to fire, but you will actually, you see he's burning, and now he's got loads of black stuff on him. He is debuffed to hell. He's got 3k less resist now, just by doing a heavy attack, and it never runs out because you're always doing heavies. Reapply again, it's not going to run out. So hopefully that wasn't too complicated. I'll go over the rotation very quickly once again, just a couple so you can see it. Beast trap, volley, light, power of the light, light ulti, heavy, stabs, heavy, stabs, heavy, slashes, light, beast trap, swap, volley, light, poison, light, power of the light, swap, start again. Make sure that you swap fast. So power of the light or the ultimate, press it and switch straight away, really fast. If it's an ultimate, you do the same. Switch straight away. The beast trap is on the end of the first one. Don't do this. Don't hit it and then swap. That's way too slow. You'll lose damage. As soon as you've pressed that button, swap. It will still apply and you can go straight into your back bar rotation. Not really much else to say about that one. But I'm going to show you a quick DPS test, of course, because you want to see those. With Major Fracture applied, of course, because some DPS characters have that as a passive for their skills, I guess, and some don't. So a DK gets it from Noxus Breath, the Nightblade gets it from Surprise Attack. It makes sense that everybody has the same debuff, especially since magic could use Alley Drain anyway. So I stuck Major Fracture on here from a tank just to see what I can get out of it, and you'll see what happens. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. The Stamina Templar to start with is tricky, but with this particular setup, you'll do absolutely fine. You'll support your group, you'll support yourself. You've got a heal on as well. You do plenty of damage. You do lots of AoE. You do lots of single target, and it's a very, very easy, sustainable rotation with very easy to acquire gear. You don't need any trial stuff for this whatsoever, and this will run you all the way to end game as well. And if anyone tells you different, stuff them. So once again, thank you all very, very much for watching. Hopefully this was useful. The streams have been going very, very well recently. I'm now streaming every single day, as some of you know, from 10 PM UK time onwards. I fully appreciate all of your support, but don't forget, if you're not subscribed, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support the channel outside of YouTube, there is a link in the description for the Patreon page where you can get perks and Discord access and all that shiny stuff, one-to-one sessions, even some early access to the build videos, and the Patreon elites, by the way, a little sneaky one in there. They know what I'm making before the build's even made. So just to throw that out there. Also, there's the Twitter page, the Facebook page, and the website xynodegaming.com, where all the written guides are. Once again, thank you all very much for watching, and bye-bye.